Welcome to episode 6 of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. I'm Jeremy Gladwell, Lizzie's dad, and I'm telling our heartbreaking story of how our daughter, a vulnerable young person, was taken, isolated and subjected to coercive control, and how she was cast adrift by the agencies tasked with safeguarding. Humberside Police and Focus Adult Social Care had chosen their side, and it wasn't ours. By extension, it wasn't Lizzie's either. These statutory agencies had aligned themselves with Coral, making a conscious decision to endorse her actions and give her the green light to proceed, and proceed she did. The decision by Focus Adult Social Care and Humberside Police to close the case was devastating. To us, and anyone with empathy or basic decency, it was clear what was happening. To everyone who knew Lizzie, friends, relatives, colleagues, associates, her sudden removal had come as a complete shock. Suspicion was high. As one colleague remarked, "If this were the plot of a soap opera, you wouldn't believe it." We had hoped that the situation would be concerning enough to trigger some level of professional curiosity from Focus Adult Social Care or Humberside Police. Unfortunately, it did not. Over the preceding weeks, there had been nothing but silence and avoidance from both agencies. I hoped and prayed that despite the apparent inactivity, things were quietly happening behind the scenes and that we would see a sudden, swift response. But the inactivity turned out to be exactly what it seemed: mere inactivity. I had spent hours explaining Lizzie's FASD diagnosis and vulnerabilities to the agencies, urging them to ensure that someone with FASD experience was present during any welfare visits. We offered to meet with them to discuss our concerns about the risks to Lizzie. We provided the full report of Lizzie's formal diagnosis, conducted by one of the country's leading experts in FASD, an advisor to the government on this complex disorder, author of numerous peer-reviewed papers, internationally respected and awarded a CBE for his services to individuals with FASD. Lizzie's diagnosis was not issued by some quack, nor was it downloaded from the internet. Despite this, our input was ignored and offers rejected. The agencies visited Lizzie, concluded she seemed okay, and closed the case. They showed complete disregard for Lizzie's needs and diagnosis, while ignoring why Coral felt compelled to act so venomously. Coral's actions had the distinct smell of coercive control, monitoring, and fear. It seemed as though once a young person turns 18, even if they have learning difficulties or mental capacity issues, the entire system just shrugs and looks the other way. We had wished for a quick resolution, hoping that Lizzie would be home within days or weeks. We thought the agencies would challenge Coral or Lewis, ask tough questions, examine why Lizzie's traumatic removal was necessary or appropriate. We needed assurance that our daughter was genuinely safe, not just fed, sheltered, or happy in her own oblivious FASD bubble, but safe. What parent wouldn't want that? The agency's ambivalence and casual disregard for our concerns shattered our hopes. With grief-stricken hearts, we realised we were entering the long game, though it was anything but a game. How was Jane coping with recent events? Not well at all. She had been emotionally shipwrecked by Lizzie's sudden departure, experiencing daily grief and devastation. The relentless trauma was amplified by the uncertainty and the cold indifference of the institutions involved. How was Jane coping? How would anyone expect a mother to cope when her only child is taken from her in such a callous and heartless way? Jane was in pieces. Since July the 21st, she had been crushed by events and sought help from her GP, but the side effects of the prescribed antidepressants only made her feel worse, so she stopped taking them. The actions of Coral Wilson Clark were painful enough, but the response from the agencies only intensified Jane's suffering, adding to the deep, heart-wrenching pain she was already enduring. I remember the call with Anna from Focus Adult Social Care. Jane was nearby when Anna dismissed everything as merely a difference in parenting styles. At that moment, Jane broke down, letting out a wail, an anguished cry from a mother's heart. "Coral is not my daughter's parent," she cried. "She is not Lizzie's mother. I am Lizzie's mum." I remember how difficult it was to continue the conversation with Anna. Her institutional detachment was infuriating, and meanwhile my wife was falling apart on the floor. All I wanted was to end the call as quickly as possible so I could attend to Jane. At one point, puzzled by the background noise, Anna asked, "What's that noise?" I lied, "It's nothing," and hurried to finish the call. With hindsight, I wish I had spoken the truth. I wish I had said, "That is the anguished cry of a mother who has lost her only child, a cry made all the worse by your insensitive lack of empathy." I realised that at some point we might need to abandon the cause and turn to grief instead, grieving for our lost daughter. For us, the events felt indistinguishable from kidnapping, given that Lizzie was a child in an adult's body. It felt like kidnapping, and it was just as distressing. The only difference was that because Lizzie was 18, the agencies didn't care. For me, when the agencies closed the case without any meaningful action or investigation, the dam broke. "I will always be here for you, Lizzie," I wrote in my journal. "I love you deeply, but cannot understand your actions. Do you miss us and our chats, games, and helpless laughter? Our home without you is filled with tears and sorrow. Our hearts are broken that you left without a goodbye, from a place where we love you deeply. We've always wanted the best for you, to discover who you truly are. You've left for a place of coercive control and manipulation, driven by power, not love. I have to let you go." That last line punched through all of my defences and brought the walls crashing down. I sobbed in a way that I hadn't since the loss of Jane's pregnancy so many years ago. I was just floored by the realisation that we might have to let Lizzie go. I said to Jane later that day that it felt like parents whose child is on a life support machine, and everything has been tried, and there's nowhere left to go. That moment of awareness that we may need to let go, to switch off the life support, and let Lizzie fade from present reality to past memory. I had so looked forward to being part of your journey, Lizzie, I wrote in my journal, a letter Lizzie would never read. Childhood was fun, and I was excited to see our relationship evolve and blossom as you became an adult. Now it's inevitable that I must let you go, which fills me with grief because I have truly loved being your daddy and wanting that to continue all through life, watching you grow up and find your way with our support. That dream has been shattered. You have broken my heart and I have to let you go. We learned even in the early stages of this excruciating journey that it is apparently perfectly acceptable to groom a child, wait until they are a vulnerable adult, indeed extra points if you wait until they are only just 18, and then seize the opportunity to remove them from their home, family and support network, leaving the parents in a state of grief-stricken devastation. By giving Coral the green light, Focus Adult Social Care and Humberside Police were, by implication, suggesting that they saw no issue with child grooming and coercive control. Both of these behaviours, I need not remind you, are illegal. In early August, the text messages from Lizzie still referred to us as Mummy and Daddy, and they ended with kisses. In turn, we always called her Lizzie, Minky or Pickle. I was desperately trying to maintain the bonds of family love and affection, keeping our exchanges as light as possible, and doing all I could to ensure that Lizzie wanted to stay in contact. However, by mid-August, the messages started to become increasingly erratic. When I tried to arrange a walk with Lizzie, I would receive replies from her number saying that she was busy and couldn't. But on the day we had planned, there would be a message asking if we were still going for a walk. When I replied that she had said she was busy, I would get another message saying she wasn't doing anything. When I asked if we could go for a walk alone, just the two of us, I was told, sorry, something came up. Later in the afternoon, while I was mowing the lawn, another message came through. We can still go for a walk if you want. It felt like I was receiving messages from two completely different people. Maybe I was. Other people, family, friends, godparents, were also starting to suspect that not all of the messages that they were receiving from Lizzie were actually from Lizzie. There was a noticeable difference in tone, language, and intent. The ones that seemed like our Lizzie were typically friendly, while the others were more hostile, goading, and accusatory. Oddly, the spelling and grammar were also noticeably worse in the messages that didn't sound like Lizzie. The erratic nature of these text messages led us to compile them and submit them to the police as evidence, suspecting external interference in Lizzie's communications. Was Lewis replying for Lizzie, or telling her what to say? Or was Lizzie experiencing a breakdown? We hoped that the police would analyse the messages and investigate. However, nothing was done with the information. Nobody asked us or addressed it with Lizzie. Key evidence was ignored, allowing the controlling behaviour to intensify. We went on our family holiday in August. Lizzie was supposed to be with us, of course, in a cottage in Dumfries and Galloway in Scotland. She would have liked the quirky layout of the cottage, with its spiral staircase and the living space on the first floor between the two bedrooms. The twin room, which would have been Lizzie's, was spacious, attractive, light and airy. She would have liked it. That's why we'd chosen it. We needed the holiday, the space, the change of scene, the distance. We could think, maybe even sleep. We reflected, we read, we relaxed. The words from the book of Isaiah chimed with startling clarity to both of us. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my right hand. What was I afraid of? Lizzie being harmed, getting pregnant with Lewis's child, being exploited or abused, and our relationship with her being damaged beyond repair. The biblical refrain, "Do not be afraid," had reassured me over the weeks since Lizzie's departure, calming my racing mind and fearful heart. We went to a church in Kirkcudbright, where we were given a message to take the emotion out of the situation, to deal only with the issues, especially where boundaries were being transgressed. Boundaries had certainly been crossed. Is it not fundamental that you do not just drive off with another person's child? Lizzie was 18 physically, but still a child mentally, emotionally, functionally, and psychologically. Coral's complete disregard for our feelings and the devastation her actions caused made me wonder if her behaviour bordered on the psychopathic. A psychopath has no awareness of others' emotions or rights and will do anything to achieve their selfish goals. If Coral had psychopathic tendencies, was Lizzie safe? On our return from holiday, I managed to see Lizzie at the end of August, on my birthday as it happens. She wanted more of her things, especially some handwritten notes that Lewis had sent her in the months before she was taken. She was very particular that she wanted those notes from Lewis. Very insistent, suspiciously insistent. Lizzie said I could see her if we stood outside the front of the house. I could not agree to those terms. The idea was repugnant that I should have to remain within sight and earshot of the Wilson Clark family. Lizzie said I couldn't see her then. However, given that she, or someone, really wanted those notes back, a compromise was negotiated. I was allowed to have a walk with Lizzie, provided we stayed on the road that the house was on, a street of terraced houses in the middle of urban Grimsby. For the sake of being able to see my daughter, I agreed to their conditions. As the scheduled time for the planned walk drew near, I received a message saying that Lewis was coming on the walk too. I said I would not be going then, because that was not what Lizzie and I had agreed. However, given the earnest need by someone to get those notes back, the insistence that Lewis attend was dropped. So I did have a walk with Lizzie. We chatted. She prattled on about the fact that she had been to a soft play centre and played Tig. She was chirpy and animated. After all, she had been playing in an environment designed for children, and it was truly lovely to listen to her chattering away. Sadly, the street is not that long, and we were back near the house sooner than I would have wished. Furthermore, heavy clouds were darkening overhead. As we approached the house, the heavens opened, and we found ourselves in a torrential downpour. We were stood beside my car at this point. "Let's get in the car," I said. "No, it's fine," Lizzie replied as the deluge worsened. Thunder rumbled overhead and lightning flashed. "Lizzie, my darling, my sweetie, this is awful," I shouted over the relentless tumult. Even though we were huddled under an umbrella I'd taken out of the car, we were still getting thoroughly drenched. "Either we sit in the back of the car and talk, or we've got to call it quits. This is ridiculous." "Call it quits," said Lizzie. "All right," I said. "I will go and enjoy the rest of my birthday." "Oh, it's your birthday?" Lizzie asked. And then a flicker of recognition registered on her face. "Happy birthday," she said. My own daughter didn't know it was her dad's birthday. Not by choice. It was the nature of her cognitive impairment, one of the gaps in her functioning which we had supported by scaffolding. I had taken her calendar to her on a previous visit. Jane and Lizzie had sat together at the start of the year and filled it in with key birthdays, anniversaries and events. Lizzie relied on that calendar to remember important dates, and would previously have texted people on their birthdays because of it. What had happened to her calendar? Her link to the celebratory milestones of family, godparents, friends, those she loved, even her own parents' birthdays. I escorted her to the front door, holding the umbrella over her. Soaked though we were, we hugged. She went into the house. The door closed behind her. And that was my birthday. The very next morning at 11 minutes past 9, I received a text message from Lizzie's phone. The message was simple. "I don't want to see you anymore." Thank you so much for listening to this episode of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. If you found it moving or helpful, or if you think our story could help others, then please like, share, or simply tell others about it. Thank you again, and join me for the next episode.